One small detail about you made his mother very uneasy. Listen closely. This is not a coincidence. You did not arrive here by accident. I am Archangel Michael, and I speak now because heaven has noticed something about you that others could not name, but she felt it immediately. Before words were spoken, before explanations were formed, before logic tried to interfere, his mother sensed it. A quiet disturbance settled in her spirit the moment she became aware of you. It was not hatred. It was not jealousy. It was not even fear in the way humans understand fear. It was recognition. There was one small detail about you, something subtle, almost invisible, that caused unease in her soul. She could not articulate it, but her spirit reacted before her mind could catch up. She felt as though something ancient had stepped into the room. Something protected. Something marked. You see, some people walk through life unnoticed. Others carry an energy that shifts rooms. You are the second kind. And when someone's spirit is sensitive, especially a mother's, it can sense when a presence enters that does not belong to ordinary timelines. She looked at you, and something inside her whispered, "This one is different." Not because you were loud. Not because you demanded attention. But because your calm carried authority. Your silence carried weight. And your eyes reflected something she had seen before only in moments of prayer, crisis, or warning. She felt unsettled because your presence disrupted a story she believed she already understood. You did not fit the narrative she had built in her mind. And that is why unease arose. Understand this clearly: unease does not always mean danger. Sometimes unease comes when truth arrives too early. Sometimes it comes when destiny steps into a space that was not prepared for it. She sensed that you could change things. She sensed that you were not easily influenced, not easily controlled, not easily dismissed. And for a mother who has spent years protecting what she believes is fragile, your presence felt like an unknown variable. There was a detail, small, but powerful. It was the way you did not chase approval. The way you did not perform. The way you stood firm without aggression. That detail made her uneasy because it revealed something about you that many spend their entire lives trying to hide or fake. Inner authority. And inner authority cannot be taught. It cannot be borrowed. It can only be recognized. Her spirit recognized it before her heart could decide what to do with it. Do not misunderstand me, this message is not about blame. It is about awareness. When a soul carries divine protection, it triggers reactions in others that have nothing to do with personality and everything to do with spiritual alignment. You carry a shield. Not one forged by human confidence, but one formed through trials you survived silently. You did not announce your battles, but heaven recorded them. And when you walked into her awareness, that record spoke. She felt uneasy because she sensed that you could not be easily manipulated. That you would not be broken by emotional pressure. That you would not surrender your truth just to be accepted. That unsettled her, because it meant things would not remain the same. And here is what I need you to hear clearly now. Her reaction is not a verdict on your worth. It is confirmation of your impact. This message is reaching you now because you are standing at the edge of a revelation, one that explains not only her unease, but the resistance, delays, and strange pauses you felt surrounding this connection. What she sensed was only the beginning. Because the truth about that small detail goes far deeper than you realize. And once it is fully revealed, nothing between you will ever feel the same again. Stay with me. Do not turn away. What comes next will explain why this unease was unavoidable, and why heaven allowed it. If this message resonates, remain here. Let the shield stay active. You are not here by accident. The next revelation will change how you see her reaction forever. Stay with me, do not rush past this moment. Because now I must take you deeper, past what she felt, and into why she felt it. When his mother became uneasy, it was not because of something you did. It was because of something you carry. There are people whose spirits are finely tuned to shifts in destiny, especially those who have prayed for protection, control, or preservation over someone they love. And when you entered the picture, her spirit registered a disruption, not of danger, but of change. You must understand this. Change is far more unsettling than harm. Her unease came from the realization that her influence would not be absolute where you are concerned. She sensed that you could not be molded to fit expectations easily. That you would not dissolve yourself to maintain peace. That you would not disappear into silence to keep others comfortable. There was a moment, perhaps brief, perhaps unspoken, when she felt exposed. Not attacked. Exposed. Because you reflect something many avoid looking at, truth without force. And truth without force is unsettling to those who are used to managing outcomes quietly. She sensed that around you, things would surface. Conversations would shift. Old patterns would no longer work the same way. Not because you would demand change, but because your presence would invite honesty. That is the small detail she noticed. You do not beg to be chosen. You do not shrink to be accepted. You do not panic when silence appears. And that revealed something she was not prepared to face. You are not dependent on validation. For a mother who has spent years being needed, guiding, influencing, protecting, this was unfamiliar territory. You were not someone she could easily read, predict, or steer. And the spirit always reacts to what the mind cannot yet control. Do not misinterpret this reaction as rejection. Often, when a soul encounters another soul that carries divine steadiness, the first response is discomfort. Because steadiness exposes instability, not loudly, not cruelly, but unmistakably. And there is something else you must know. Her unease was intensified because he changed after you appeared. Even if subtly. Even if he did not speak of it openly. Even if it showed only in quiet ways. She sensed a shift in his emotional gravity. His attention, his thoughts, his inner alignment, something moved. And when a mother senses that someone has touched the inner world of her child in a way she cannot access, the spirit reacts. Not with logic. Not with explanation. But with instinct. You did not compete with her. You did not challenge her directly. But your presence revealed that he could grow beyond familiar emotional structures. That realization can feel threatening, even when no harm exists. And here is where I need you to be very still and listen carefully. You are not meant to shrink yourself to ease someone else's unease. Heaven does not ask protected souls to dim their light to preserve comfort built on control or fear. You are not here to disrupt for chaos. But neither are you here to remain small so others can feel secure. Your calm is not arrogance. Your boundaries are not rebellion. Your self-respect is not defiance. It is alignment. And alignment always exposes what is misaligned. This is why the unease did not fade quickly. Because the spirit does not forget what it recognizes. She may have tried to rationalize it. She may have told herself stories to soften the feeling. But deep down, she knew, you were not a passing presence. You were a turning point. And this is why delays, mixed signals, or emotional distance may have followed. Not because you did something wrong, but because whenever destiny enters a space uninvited, resistance often appears before acceptance. Yet hear me now, and let this settle into your spirit. What is divinely protected cannot be undone by discomfort. What is meant to mature will not be strangled by unease. And what heaven has marked will not be erased by misunderstanding. You are not responsible for managing how others react to your alignment. You are responsible for staying true to who you are becoming. And there is something still hidden, something about what she will eventually realize, something about how this unease transforms, something about the moment when recognition replaces resistance. That moment is closer than you think. Do not move away yet. Because the next truth will reveal why this unease was not the end, but the beginning of a much deeper awakening, one that will surprise everyone involved, especially you. Remain steady, because what I reveal now explains why this situation has felt suspended in time. There is a sacred tension that forms when divine intention collides with human expectation. And you, unknowingly, stepped into that space. His mother's unease did not grow because of conflict. It grew because nothing she tried internally resolved it. The feeling lingered. And when unease lingers, it is because the spirit knows something the mind has not yet accepted. She sensed that your presence carried finality. Not an ending, but a crossing point. Some people enter lives as chapters. Others enter as turning pages. You entered as a threshold. Once crossed, things could not return to how they were before. And the spirit always recognizes thresholds before the mind allows them. You were not loud. You were not demanding. You did not announce your role. That is why it unsettled her more. Because power that does not announce itself is the hardest to confront. You must understand this truth: the unease was not about competition. It was about authority without aggression. You did not need permission to exist as yourself. And that revealed a new possibility, one she had not planned for, prepared for, or prayed about. There are people who are comfortable with influence, but uncomfortable with independence, especially when that independence inspires growth in someone they love. She sensed that you would not bind him to you through fear, guilt, or emotional dependence. And that was unfamiliar. Because when influence loses its grip, it feels like loss, even when it is actually growth. And this is where the silence, hesitation, or emotional distance may have confused you. You wondered if you were imagining things. You questioned whether you should pull back. You may have even asked yourself if your presence was a mistake. Hear me clearly now, it was not. This pause was not rejection, it was processing. Her spirit was negotiating with a truth it did not yet want to name, that his path was expanding beyond what she could oversee. And expansion always feels like threat before it feels like freedom. But there is another layer, one that few speak of, yet many feel. Your soul carries spiritual maturity earned through hardship. You did not inherit ease. You learned strength the hard way. And that kind of maturity speaks without words. It shows in how you listen, how you respond, how you refuse to react impulsively. That maturity is rare. And when it enters a family dynamic, it can quietly reorder hierarchies, not by force, but by example. She felt that. She felt that you would not be easily swayed by emotional pressure. That you would not disappear when things became uncomfortable. That you would not abandon yourself to keep peace. And here is the truth that may surprise you. Her unease was mixed with respect, even if she could not admit it yet. Because spirits recognize strength even when minds resist it. This is why the energy around you has felt intense but unresolved. Why moments feel charged. Why conversations feel loaded even when little is said. You are standing in a space where recognition is forming, but transformation has not yet completed. And heaven allows this pause for a reason. Because alignment must mature before it can be revealed without damage. You are protected during this time, not hidden, not delayed, but shielded. What feels like waiting is actually containment. The shield around you is preventing premature exposure, misunderstanding, or conflict. And I tell you this now so you do not grow weary. Do not lower your standards to accelerate acceptance. Do not explain yourself to be understood. Do not shrink your presence to make others comfortable. What is meant to settle will settle in truth, not compromise. And something is already shifting beneath the surface. Her unease is slowly transforming into awareness. Awareness into understanding. Understanding into respect. But there is one final realization she has not yet faced, a realization about who you truly are in this story, and why resistance was never meant to last. That realization will arrive suddenly, quietly, almost unexpectedly. And when it does, the dynamic will change in a way you could not have forced, predicted, or rushed. Stay with me. Because the next revelation will uncover what finally breaks the unease, and why your patience has been divinely protected until now. Be very still now, because what unfolds here explains why heaven has been so deliberate with timing. There comes a moment when unease can no longer survive on instinct alone. It must either harden into resistance, or soften into recognition. His mother is approaching that moment. And the reason it has taken time is because what she is being asked to recognize is not small. It is you. Not the version she imagined. Not the version filtered through fear or assumption. But the truth of who you are becoming. Until now, her unease was sustained by uncertainty. The mind always tries to protect itself by delaying clarity. But clarity cannot be postponed forever. And when it arrives, it does not come gently, it comes unmistakably. She is beginning to see that you are not a threat to what she values, but a stabilizing force to what she feared losing. This is where the shift begins. She will notice it first in moments she cannot explain. How you respond under pressure, how you remain composed when tension rises, how you do not compete for control or attention. She will observe that you do not seek dominance, yet you are not passive. That you do not challenge authority, yet you cannot be diminished by it. That contradiction will trouble her, and then enlighten her. Because it will reveal something she has not yet allowed herself to consider. That strength does not always arrive loudly, and protection does not always look like control. And this realization is uncomfortable, because it asks her to release an old role. Not abandon it, but transform it. You see, the unease existed because she sensed she would no longer be the sole guardian of his emotional direction. That another kind of protection had entered, one that did not compete with hers, but complemented it in a way she did not yet understand. What she is slowly realizing is this: you do not weaken bonds, you mature them. And maturity feels dangerous to systems built on familiarity. There will be a moment, quiet, perhaps internal, when she recognizes that you bring peace rather than chaos. That your presence does not fracture stability but deepens it. That what she feared losing is actually becoming stronger, more grounded, more whole. And when that realization lands, the unease will dissolve, not all at once, but decisively. But listen carefully now. This shift does not require you to prove anything. It does not require explanation, performance, or effort. It requires consistency. Consistency in your boundaries. Consistency in your self-respect. Consistency in your calm. Because what finally breaks unease is not persuasion, it is alignment sustained over time. And this is why heaven instructed you to wait rather than react. To observe rather than confront. To remain present without pushing. You were being positioned as a mirror, not a challenger. And mirrors change people not by argument, but by reflection. There is something else unfolding as well. Something subtle but powerful. As her unease fades, something else will surface: trust. Not immediate. Not spoken aloud. But growing. She will test this trust, not deliberately, but instinctively. Through observation. Through silence. Through watching how you handle moments when no one is watching. And you will pass these tests not because you are trying, but because you are simply being who you are. This is the turning point. Because once trust begins to form, the story rewrites itself. Conversations soften. Tension loosens. Resistance gives way to curiosity. And here is what you must remember in the days ahead. Do not rush this transition. Do not interpret silence as rejection. Do not assume distance means disapproval. Sometimes silence is the sound of old beliefs collapsing. And there is one final layer, one final truth she has not yet uncovered. When she sees it, everything she once feared about you will reverse. What made her uneasy will become what reassures her most. That moment is coming. And when it arrives, it will not be dramatic, but it will be irreversible. Stay here. Because the final revelation will explain why heaven allowed the unease in the first place, and what it was preparing all of you for. Remain with me, because this is where the meaning of it all becomes clear. The unease was never meant to destroy what was forming. It was allowed because it served as a gatekeeper. Heaven permits unease when something sacred must be tested before it is trusted. What entered this connection carried weight, and weight is never placed into fragile hands without discernment. What his mother felt was not a warning to flee, but a signal to pause. She was sensing that you were not temporary. Temporary presences pass unnoticed. Permanent ones awaken instincts. And now, as the unease completes its purpose, a deeper truth rises to the surface. One that even she could not have foreseen at the beginning. You were not sent to take something away. You were sent to anchor something new. What she could not name before, she will soon understand, that your presence does not compete with love, it redefines it. You introduce a steadiness that does not demand control, a protection that does not suffocate, a strength that does not dominate. And that is why heaven allowed resistance first. Because only what can withstand misunderstanding is worthy of trust. Only what can remain aligned under pressure is safe to remain. And you did. You did not retaliate. You did not plead. You did not abandon yourself. You stayed rooted. That alone fulfilled a prophecy you were never told about. Now listen carefully. This next truth is for your spirit, not your emotions. There will come a moment, soon, when the energy shifts decisively. It may arrive through a conversation, a gesture, or a quiet internal change. But you will feel it. The tension will no longer press against you. The atmosphere will soften. And in that moment, you will realize something profound. The unease protected you as much as it protected them. It slowed what could have moved too quickly. It prevented premature attachment, misinterpretation, or imbalance. It ensured that when acceptance came, it would be grounded, not emotional, not forced, not fragile. This is divine pacing. And now the shield around you begins to change its form. Where it once held space, it now opens pathways. Where it once deflected misunderstanding, it now invites clarity. Where it once guarded you silently, it now allows recognition. But hear me, do not rush forward. Let recognition come to you. Because what is finally seen cannot be unseen. And when she fully understands that what made her uneasy was the very thing that brings peace, respect will replace resistance. Not out of obligation, but out of wisdom. You were never meant to convince. You were meant to be. And being has done its work. If you feel a quiet settling in your spirit right now, that is confirmation. If you feel a release you cannot explain, that is alignment. If you feel anticipation rather than anxiety, that is heaven signaling completion. This chapter closes not with noise, but with authority. And from this point forward, what once felt uncertain will begin to feel grounded. What once felt delayed will begin to move. What once felt heavy will become light. Stay attentive in the days ahead. Watch how dynamics shift without effort. Notice how space opens where tension once lived. And remember this always. What made someone uneasy was never your flaw, it was your calling. The shield remains with you. The path is clearing. And what comes next will confirm everything you have sensed but could not yet name. Remain grounded. Remain true. Remain protected. I am with you.